In an unforgettable operation, Ukraine successfully destroyed a Russian oil rig in the Black Sea, valued at an estimated $480 million. The strike was swift, sharp, and seemingly unstoppable. At 2:07 a.m., a white flash erupted on the horizon. 3 precision drones, each no larger than a car door, skimmed extremely low over the water surface. They traveled at 78 miles per hour, their engines muted beneath the fog. They were undetectable by radar, but their timing was flawless. At a distance of 600 meters, the first drone tore through the night silence with an explosion equivalent to 900 pounds of TNT, shattering the antenna crown and sending shockwaves rippling 12 miles across the open sea. The second drone hit the lower deck, rupturing high-pressure fuel lines. These lines instantly transformed into a 2,000 degrees Celsius firestorm. The crew inside had no warning, only scorching heat and absolute darkness. In less than 60 seconds, the fortress, which cost $500 million, was burning from the inside out. Control systems were gone and defenses were silent. What happened was not mere luck, but extreme precision, a chain of steps planned for years, and one mistake Russia never anticipated. 2 surface drones cut through the dark, followed by 5 small, furious FPV racers heading toward the rig's antennas with surgical speed. There was no massive roar, just a high, urgent whine, followed by another detonation designed to break steel and silence control systems. Within 10 seconds, the control array was smashed. Screens turned white and instruments froze. A key jamming unit collapsed into flame. This strike began as a mathematical operation, not chaos. The $480 million platform was designed to dominate signals, not to survive this tactic. In the control room, the temperature spiked to nearly 1,800 degrees Celsius. The crew moved like shadows amid the smoke, and commands faded through the static. A second micro-explosion punctured the deck, and ruptured pipe oil rushed out to feed the rapidly ascending flames. In less than a minute, the surveillance fortress was no longer a stronghold, but a burning silent node whose echo resonated across the sea. The secret of the hidden relay. At 10:15 p.m., about 4 hours before the explosion, and while the rig slept behind its walls of confidence, something quiet was already moving beneath the noise of commerce. A cargo vessel named the Dora Line slipped out of the Romanian port of Constanța. An ordinary ship, ordinary cargo, no escort, and no signal worth noticing. But inside one of its containers lay a secret worth more than most destroyers, a 2.3-ton robotic relay craft folded like steel origami. Its mission was to act as an invisible nerve between land and sea, transmitting commands across 200 miles of contested airwaves. 28 nautical miles from the target, as the vessel drifted through commercial traffic, a single crane lowered this relay craft into the black water. The ship continued its course toward Turkey, while the ghost boat floated alone, its battery lights dimmed and its antennas retracted. It was a decoy small enough to hide beneath the wake of passing tankers. This is how the strike became possible. The drones that erupted from the fog hours later were listening through this forgotten relay, a machine no larger than a small fishing boat, a floating Trojan horse. Had the Russians discovered it, the entire plan would have turned to smoke. This was the risk Ukraine dared to take, and it worked. A sonar trap reveals the map. At 1:42 a.m., the sea was calm, but the electromagnetic spectrum was not. The Ukrainian formation, underwater drone, 2 surface craft, and the relay was moving like ghosts, invisible to radar. Then came one sound that should not have existed, a sonar echo too perfect, too clean. On the Russian corvette Byron M, a junior operator caught it first. The pattern looped every 9 seconds with flawless symmetry. Real submarines never breathed that evenly. His instinct screamed, "Trap." Seconds later, a Tor M2 missile split the night, heading toward the phantom source. This was the moment Ukraine had waited for. As the missile left its tube, the corvette's radar beam swept wide, exposing the coordinates of the rig's own surveillance grid. The invisible map was now lit from within. At 600 meters, a Katron drone opened its hatch and launched a single FPV unit, high and slow, bright enough to be seen and deliberate enough to be tracked. The Russians reacted exactly as predicted. The Tor missile's guidance computer switched mid-flight, abandoning the sonar lure and targeting the visible drone. The bait was eliminated in a flash of light. For Russia, it was a success. For Ukraine, it was a door. That single sacrifice gave their operators a 30-second window to triangulate enemy radar sources, record jamming frequencies, and prepare the subsequent strike. Blinding the giant, activating Phase Delta. At 1:45 a.m., the sea itself seemed to hold its breath. Inside the Ukrainian command link, a coded pulse flashed, Phase Delta. This was the signal to blind the giant. The lead Katron 7 activated its electronic warfare core, a compact emitter packing nearly 780 kilowatts of directed energy, tuned precisely to the rig's X-band radar frequency, 9.3 gigahertz. The burst lasted just 41 seconds, but to a radar operator it felt like an eternity. Screens that once showed clean green echoes turned into blinding sheets of static white. Every symbol and every line of defense vanished digitally. On the surface, the rig's antennas sparked, overheating under the storm of noise. In this artificial blindness, the second Katron opened both hatches. 5 FPV units streamed into the dark, weaving low above the waves, each connected by fiber optic tethers no thicker than fishing line, making them immune to the jamming storm they had just unleashed. The drones split formation. 3 targeted the upper deck's GPS spoofer array, and 2 headed toward the communication spine. For 40 seconds, nothing on the rig could see, hear, or understand what was coming. Counterattack and maritime destruction. At 1:49 a.m., the sea erupted again, but this time the noise came from above. East of the burning rig, 2 Su-30 SM fighters cut through the cloud deck. Their radars instantly locked onto a thermal bloom from the Katron 7 drone, which was built to die beautifully. The drone ejected 6 thermal decoys, their magnesium cores burning at over 2,400 degrees Celsius. The first Russian missile chased the lure, veering off course and detonating harmlessly over the open water. Down below, the Talos 9 underwater drone was preparing its own reply. It was trapped between the corvette's sonar net and the collapsing rig. Instead of retreating, it shifted to attack mode. Depth 18 meters, distance 450 meters from the rig's nearest leg. Its payload was a 10-pound shape-charge mini-torpedo primed for contact detonation. The strike arrived like a muffled heartbeat. Pressure sensors spiked on the corvette, and a shockwave traveled through the seafloor at 9,000 psi at the fracture point, splitting the already weakened concrete support. Fire met fuel above the surface. A new column of flame clawed into the night, painting the horizon in molten orange. By 1:18 p.m., the entire structure leaned 6 degrees starboard, a death sentence for any offshore platform. The Russian corvette circled in confusion, unable to interpret the turbulence. The collapse and the Black Sea shift. At 2:15 a.m., the Black Sea was no longer dark. Where a towering steel platform had stood hours earlier, only a leaning, fire-ridden carcass remained. Flames climbed 30 meters into the air, fed by nearly 4,000 gallons of crude. The rig was collapsing from the inside out. The dual strikes, the internal FPV detonation,